I'm Trish. Welcome back to my channel. It is Friday night and I am making one of our family's very favorite treats for end of the week. We're all glad to be home. That is Detroit style pizza. What makes this a little different from regular pizza is you make it in a cast iron pan. It has a very thick crust. The cheese goes on first and then the sauce goes over the top. This is a really easy thing to do, and I'm going to show you how. You don't need a fancy mixer for this, so just use your best guess and your intuition, and I'm sure it's going to turn out great. So that was 6 scoops of flour with a bigger spoon. A little garlic powder. You're going to add some rapid rise yeast. And I'm going to use a sprinkle of flaked sea salt. It doesn't have to be fancy. You can use any kind of salt you have available. I am going to combine my dry ingredients. Pour in beer. Okay, I don't know if you can see how much I used. It's just to about here on the beer is how much I needed for that. It isn't usually more than half a bottle. A little more damp. I took my ring off so I could show you this. The dough is going to look like this. It's kind of like Play-Doh a little bit. A little drier. It needs to be mixed. And I do that with my hands. You've done it right when you've cleaned out most of the bowl, and the dough can be used to kind of sweep the sides. It's going to feel a little bit gritty, and that's okay because we're going to let this rise. I'm going to put some olive oil on it. Probably 1/8 of a cup, and I'm going to work the olive oil into the dough. This takes a little bit of planning. It is about 2 in the afternoon, and we usually eat around 7:30. So this is a thing to do on the weekends or when you have a little more time, or if you're just bored. All right, I've coated all of this with the olive oil. And I'm going to set that in the oven for about an hour and let it rise. We started this at about 2:30 in the afternoon, and it's now almost 6. This really isn't a lot of work because I had time to do a lot of other things with my day. I've been doing laundry, I walked the dog, I ran the vacuum, unloaded the dishwasher, repotted some plants. So basically the dough does all its own work. You just have to mix it up, and that just takes a couple minutes. So there's no reason you can't make this. Maybe on a Saturday. If you have a job outside the home, make it on a Saturday. Okay, I am going to put some olive oil in the bottom of my cast iron skillet. If there is a top 10 item for a kitchen must-have, you need a cast iron skillet. I could not survive without this. No matter where we've lived or how small our house was, this is always my go-to. If I had nothing else in the kitchen, I want this. My skillet is warm but not hot, and I put olive oil in the bottom, I'm stretching out the dough right now, and I'm trying to make it just about the same shape as the bottom of the pan, and we're gonna let this rise again. So we'll spread that out, and the olive oil helps it to be pliable and not stick to the pan. Not much sticks to a cast iron pan. That's one of the benefits. Oh, this pizza is so good. It's absolutely worth the effort. Once you make this, you're not gonna go back. There we go. We're gonna let that rise for another hour or so. We don't usually eat until quite late, especially on Fridays. There's a lot to take care of before we're ready to close out our week. So I'm gonna let this rise and we'll be back. Our dough has been rising in this pan for about an hour and a half. It's puffy and we don't want to push it down entirely, but we do want to make some dents with our fingers and make sure that it reaches the edge. These pockets hold all the goodies. I'm now going to put it in the oven at 350 degrees for about 5 minutes. I pop my dough into the cast iron skillet in my convection oven at 350 degrees for 8 minutes. We just want to give the dough a head start on the baking process. I'm now going to take it out and I'm going to turn the oven up to 450 degrees. Here's what makes our pizza Detroit style. We're going to put the mozzarella cheese on first before the sauce. You want to use the shredded kind rather than fresh, and make sure that it goes all the way to the edge. It's important to use a lot of it. This is the main attraction with this type of pizza. Then I put grated Parmesan. You can put toppings on this if you prefer. Real Detroit style pizza, where I'm from, generally only comes as a cheese option or pepperoni. I don't prefer pepperoni, so I make the cheese option. But if you wanted to add your toppings, this would be the place to do it. Then you add your pizza sauce, and you don't want to cover the whole thing. I usually make a grid pattern. This pizza sauce is homemade, and I can show you how to do that in a future episode. If you don't have homemade, you can use pizza sauce from a jar. It's just as good. There you go. You want to make a grid pattern. We don't want to douse this in the marinara sauce, but we want some on each slice. Typically, if you get this in a restaurant in Detroit, it's going to be served in a square pan. I don't have a square cast iron pan, but this will work just fine. Now, I'm going to cover this with tin foil and put it back into the oven at 450 degrees for 20 minutes. The reason for the tin foil is it's important to not let it burn. And we do have to cook it at a very high temperature to get the thick crust to cook all the way through. Here we have our gorgeous Detroit style pizza. Notice that the cheese is not brown. It needs to just be melted, and it should have a nice crust along the edge.